And if they had a, yeah, that's my mom's side. It has 4 boys and 4 girls. My dad's side, it had 2 boys and 4 girls. And I had, and people get really detailed. So I'll show you the video again as I'm drawing mine. Kind of a funny.
It's hard to do it on a computer.
A lot of people do. Because they have software that lets you do it in Word. I would draw it by hand.
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
But they have a very beautiful software that lets you draw it. Here's the one that I showed because it is, actually that's a nice short one too, but we'll start with this one, if it wants to work.
Like you, they're paying them $5,000, $10,000, $15,000.
All these guys are get rich quick.
What is a genogram? A genogram is a special type of family tree. A family tree will simply display ancestry information. However, a genogram will display additional information about the relationships of the individuals. Genograms are drawn using standardized symbols that help the viewer understand the relationships. The basic family symbols include a square for a male and a circle for a female. Genograms also include special symbols to indicate if children are twins or if a child is a biological child or adopted, in case that information is helpful. Genograms also may include information about the actual emotional relationships. There are symbols to indicate a wide range of emotions ranging from friendship to hate. Genograms may also be used for medical and genetic analysis by simply tagging individuals with particular traits. Let's look at an example that demonstrates this. We will use Star Wars and the Skywalker family as an example. Let's start by looking at Padme's family. Her father Rui, represented by a square, mother Jabal, represented by a circle. She also has an older sister named Sola. We know she's older because she is to the left. Let's get a bigger picture. We can see that Padme is in love with Anakin Skywalker, who is the son of Shmi Skywalker and the Force. Anakin and Padme have twins, Luke and Leia. However, Anakin does not know this and does not know about Leia. Luke is adopted by Owen Lars and Barry Whiteside. Owen turns out to be the son of Clea Lars, who married Anakin's mother after Owen's mother died. On the other hand, Leia is adopted by Bail Professor Organa and Brea until she takes the Organa family name. Luke has a close, violent relationship with his father. They fight every time they see each other.
Darth Vader.
Luke is friends with Han Solo, who marries Leia, and have a child named Ben. Anakin, Luke, Leia, and Ben are strong characters of stories. We can see a pattern from which we could begin to theorize that this is a hereditary trait. As you can see, a genogram can provide a lot of information, and this is just the beginning. If you want to find out more information about genograms, follow the links into the description.
So, it seems weird, like why would we make a family tree as a social worker? Why would you all think we do it?
Today I'll be going through how to do a basic genogram. These can be very confusing. Once you get the hang of it, it's very straightforward.
It shows a lot about your client.
The thing to always remember is that people don't exist in isolation. So thinking of a patient, particularly children, as part of a family system is very important, especially when considering how they may fare outside of the hospital environment.
So it does show like this systems theory, like who they're connected with, if there's alcoholism in the family, if someone divorced or died young, things of that nature.
And it's always important to try to gain information of at least 3 generations worth of data for a family. First things first, identify if your patient is male or female or other. Here we have a patient that is female, and the larger size and double line of this symbol indicates that they are the patient. The numbers within the symbols represent the age of the patient. Branching upward, we have the genetic parents. We also have their ages listed, and on downward stems, we have the birth dates for quick reference. And then here we have a younger sibling, also branching off the parents' shared stem there. Then, of course, in terms of ongoing relationships, we need to know if the parents are still together, separated, reconciled, or living together. As you can see, there are annotations on the shared line that show the chronology of the parents' relationship. Here we have a double line that represents the divorce between the genetic parents. Now we have an adjunct drawn on that represents a new family. The father now has a new partner, living together since 2010. And they also have a daughter that is 3 years old. As you can see, the symbol.
So when we do these with our clients, we first learn how to do this on ourselves, so we can like show our history, our background, genetic things like I had a grandmother who had both alcoholism and bipolar disorder, an uncle who has bipolar. I have a divorce in there. I was remarried in 2019. We had a kid in 20, 21, and 22. My two brothers and two sisters they all have two girls, and then my two sisters each have one boy. So just kind of showing the breakdown of how the family flows, and EcoMap will show more of our energy, what we do throughout the week. That like, do I spend most of my energy like on this, or going here, or going to that place?
Also very consistent in how they are arranged between families. Then, of course, it's very useful to have the third generation to give a better indication of patterns of behaviour and things of note that have occurred in families generationally. Here we have a half-shaded cell on the paternal grandfather symbol. That can represent a physical or psychological illness. Here we have an annotation of BPAD, which represents a bipolar affective disorder, which can be particularly important if you want to see trends in families, particularly where there is a genetic component of any condition. And then how relationships are represented. The zigzag line shared between the paternal grandparents signifies a hostile relationship. Meanwhile, a relationship with an endpoint arrow represents that a person is particularly focused on another person. So here the mother is particularly focused on the younger brother. An X over a symbol denotes whether or not a person is deceased. It can also be useful if available to include the cause. Of course, it's always good to know where your patient resides. Larger circles encompassing the symbols represent households. Here they live with the mother and her parents, which can be important to consider when assessing the level of support they have at home.
Yeah, so if you have a 3-generation family, that's a way to show that. You would circle all 3 generations here. It's less common in the US, but we certainly still do have it. There's times when I still lived at my parents', and other countries it's very common, and very, especially in India when I visited there, in Nicaragua and El Salvador.
It's also very important to have some characteristics of your patient available for quick reference. Here down the side of the genogram, we list their top 3 stressors and vulnerabilities. Stressors being acute type changes that may have precipitated the admission, while the vulnerabilities are more long-standing issues that may perpetuate admissions. So I hope that's been helpful. In terms of just representing the patient's family quickly and efficiently, this is probably all you need. So thanks for your time and all the best.
So there is software that they show at that. The video that I posted for you guys was this one. Like Gene Pro is the name of the software. They have like a free version if you want to use that. Some people like it because it gives you like different symbols for mom, dad, divorce,
Mine
kids.
doesn't want to be that big.
Everybody's is different. And if it's easier to include additional stuff, because it could tell more of a story, you know, like this is.
We're getting graded on this. So you want us to do 3 generations, so that would be like me, my mom, my sister. And then I can't do my dad's side because he's deceased and I don't know any of them. So I'll have to go off my
What
mom's
your
side,
mom
so my
knows.
granny,
Mhm.
and then her mom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 3 generations.
Correct, yeah, so like I have here, me, I'm a middle child, my parents are actually here, and then all their siblings, I didn't put their kids, that would be 40 grandkids. And then my grandparents up here, of course, that's like the 3rd generation. And some people have like divorces and remarriages. And again, it tells a story, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm gonna go look up your genetic background and say, well, it says here that your family tree that you were not in this or that. It's obviously what you're willing to tell. And then the better we get the story from ourselves and our clients, the better we can work through a dialogue of stuff that we may need to work through in therapy, or something that you would want to work on with your case manager or your counselor or your therapist. So that's why we usually do it. Has anybody ever heard of these before? It's a big social work thing. This is like everywhere you go in graduate school for social work, this is like the main thing. Like if you do that search for genogram, not just on YouTube, but everywhere, you're
So
gonna find
you're-
something that's about a genogram and all the different ways people do it and all the different software. Here's Paulina's genogram, that's 3 minutes. And given the symbols that you might use for, again, bipolar disorder or alcoholism, maybe there's divorce, maybe there's college grad in your family, maybe there's a first generation student. Like everybody has a unique story to tell and how that affects us and what we do. So any questions on that? Does anyone happen to remember who we lent the book to?
Me,
Okay,
I don't know me
that's
tomorrow.
the only reason I asked. This is funny because I offered it to an adjunct
Mhm.
last semester because they teach this portion of the class also. It's the same book. And the reason I had extras, they're like, I don't need the book.
Start using the book.
All of these PowerPoints are from the book. So everything that you're getting is straight from the book. I always say to have it for your bookshelf for when you're out in practice and you can show how smart you are. Look at that 500-page book that I read. Like I read it cover to cover, or you did it, but you can act like you did. So you like put it up on your bookshelf. You know, we've started with pregnancy, birth, and the newborn. We had a lot of questions, maybe with different folks in here today. Does everybody at least know how someone would get pregnant? That's kind of the basic one. It's kind of a sarcastic question for you guys to maybe laugh about it. So usually it is like in vitro fertilization or natural sex, or sometimes I think they even do like a test tube, right? Have you heard of the test tube thing? Is that what IVF is? I don't know enough about it. But as we went through that, eggs fertilized, if it gets caught in the fallopian tube, that can be dangerous to a woman. That happens occasionally. Most of the time it'll implant into the uterus. The period is the shedding of the uterine lining. So like the older you get, the more likely you are to have complications. Like myself and my wife, I'm 45 now. She is going to be 37 next month. And they check your baby like every month because there's so many things wrong. You could get pregnant, have a something with the placenta, something with the amnion bag. Actually, her amnion bag broke. Something with the placenta, something with the amnion bag. Actually, her amnion bag broke early on our first baby, so we had her a little bit early. That was COVID of 2020. They show the stages of labor. It goes through in the book. Some people can 12, 14 hours. Some people are right away real quick and the baby's delivered. You have the recovery time. And so the reason they start here in the book is because lots of traumas can happen while you're pregnant. Are there any things you guys can think of that can happen that's not good for the baby while somebody's pregnant?
Layoff, like how like in pregnancy that's working and you think about how one makes money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
That's a big one, yeah. So you're laid off, you have heightened cortisol because of it. Like, what the heck? I got my mortgage coming due, $1,055 this month. I got my car payments, $333. I got my insurance. What else do we have to pay for? Freaking food in the pandemic is doubled in price. And that affects the baby. So the cortisol, like if the baby's washed in stress hormones and cortisol, it does affect growth. Sometimes there's a abusive relationship, and there can be some situations where, for whatever reason too, and maybe you all could shed some light on it, like abusive relationships spike up during pregnancies. Why would you think that is?
Emotions.
Like hormones and stuff, and like fighting over the.
No, I just feel like a lot of emotions come from her, especially like if it's an unplanned pregnancy.
Right.
I feel like it could be like a lot of emotions coming from both parties.
So that happens. Did I ever tell you guys how we had our first baby? So we were not married yet, and my wife's brother is a priest, and he was going to say our wedding. So we found out about a week or two before the wedding that she was already like 2 months pregnant. So I don't know if any of you guys go to church or whatever, but like the priest at the Catholic church, they say your wedding, and you have a rehearsal dinner. You ever heard of the rehearsal dinners? So he was at the rehearsal dinner. It's her brother, so he's at the rehearsal dinner. We ended up going to what you call in Catholic church a confession that we were pregnant and had the baby premarital sex. And he was cool about it. He was like, you know, like you guys, I hope you live well. And you're always scared. You're like, you're talking to a freaking priest. It is her brother, but he kind of sent us off with a blessing. We had her 6 months after our marriage. So we were December 2019, baby was born June of 2020. So they would know that we had the baby before the wedding, right? You do any simple math, you know, 9 months, 6 months, that's early. So different things, yeah. And sometimes that stress can affect the weight. The baby could weigh only this much. Like, do any of you have nieces or nephews that when they were born, they were certain weight? Yeah, or premature, yeah. Like, so anything before 36 weeks is premature. Have you guys, I know some of that is in the book. Something else to consider. This was weird for me because when my wife got pregnant, the first 2 weeks they count. When you're pregnant, you actually are pregnant at the 3rd week because they count your last period. So that will be 2 weeks until you ovulate. And then the 3rd week is when you're actually the 1st week in a sense. So it's really weird and why it goes on 40, 41, 42 weeks. But they count all the way back to your last period. Ovulation is 2 weeks later. Pregnancy can happen, like sperm can live there for 10 days. So you could have a 10-day range of where pregnancy could occur. And then on the 4th week, 3rd and 4th week, you're pregnant. What is it? They said at like 7 weeks, they detect like the noises, the baby can start hearing. I know it's all review, but some of the complications could be like vomiting, morning sickness, vaginal bleeding. We had a placenta previa where the placenta separates from the wall of the uterus. So we thought the baby was lost. It was like a mass of cells, and she came out crying like, I lost the baby. And we went in and they're like, no, you're fine. Like it detached for a second and kind of ripped, blood came out, but it was fine. Everything was normal. She didn't, I guess you could feel it, but she might, pregnancy just hurts, period. I don't know how, anybody in here able to describe what pregnancy is like?
I done went through it 5 times.
So you could give us some, it doesn't feel great. Maybe there's a day or two you feel good, but then it's like.
Yeah, especially in the
Stretching,
beginning phase.
ligament.
Like seeing sick.
Throwing up.
Morning sickness.
Okay.
Really bad. It was horrible.
Right.
And that lasted for at least 4 or 5 months.
And I feel like a lot of people frame it in different ways, but some of them are like, but it was way more a blessing to have that kid than the hurt it was to be pregnant or something. You know what I mean? Other people are like, no, don't ever get pregnant in your entire life.
Forget the pain.
Right,
They say,
right. Right.
Visit like every time, like does your brain kind of like wish up to the point you can't remember this, and be like, oh, I remember.
when you think of the beauty, the moment when that child comes, I'm sure you and your wife go through it. It's a beautiful feeling. In which, you know, y'all had a baby, every year.
20, 21, 22.
Yeah, and so, and you know, she wouldn't have did that if she was home on Saturday.
Right.
She would have said, oh, no, I can never do this again.
Right.
So, I mean, I get it. Like I said, I have five kids. My oldest is 26.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest is 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my youngest is
How old were you when you had him?
40.
Okay.
40. And that was the only pregnancy I had a C-section with.
Okay.
All the rest of them I had natural. But I had a C-section because I had complications. I ended up having a fibroid that grew to the size of a watermelon, a very large tumor.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it was horrible. That's why they say it's more complicated to have children
When you're older.
Yeah.
That's innate. scan you every week? Like she would like be looking
Yeah,
at.
she probably was over it with the doctor's appointments.
Oh yeah.
You
And
know, I
still,
was too.
so how did they take out the fibroid? Is it just like
Well,
a
they
surgery?
would not take it out. They could have took it out at the same time when they delivered the baby, but they said I could have hemorrhaged to death.
So
And I already didn't think I was gonna make it. I had to go talk to an attorney, put it in writing.
oh,
Each of
will.
my children were gonna go live with, because they really didn't think I was gonna make it. I mean, the tumor was, it just had a mind of its own. It was terrible, but, yeah, my son, he's good. He was a breech baby. Of course, he could not turn because the tumor was so big. So,
What does that mean? Okay, now that's something I don't know enough. Breech baby is where they can't turn, so they're
well, I didn't know too much about breech either, but.
right here. So they turn over
What do you
and
mean
come
by
out
turn down?
front.
Yes.
Frontwards.
The baby was, he said up. in
They
my
s-
stomach. And y'all know what? And it was so scary because I didn't think it was nothing wrong with it. I didn't know that the baby could have came out with a lot of complications. I had to go to get his hip. He had to get x-rays done on his hips on a regular.
For development, like the proper
Yes.
development. Okay.
Yes, I believe it. But, you know, that having natural, that's amazing
Mm-hmm.
because you heal so much faster. That
Definitely.
C-section was the worst. I don't wish that on nobody.
Because they cut here.
Yeah, but since I had the tumor, they had to cut me they had to give me, horrible. But when usually, like she said, they usually give you a small bikini line
Right.
up underneath.
Yeah, so you can cover up and wear a swimsuit.
Exactly, but I had to get a long small.
Okay.
But, yeah, I would recommend natural for any woman in the day because it's take a longer time to heal with that cut on you. It's like cutting on you versus you have baby, you feeling good pretty much for the next 2 to 3 days. I mean, you're gonna still just discover, but
Right. Yeah.
you definitely heal so much faster.
They do give 4, 6, 8 weeks to heal. So that's kind of what we're going through right now. We're at 4 weeks Friday, so she'll be a month today. I guess he's a month old, born on New Year's Eve.
How is gotta stay tonight together?
Kind of. That's why I keep saying I sleep like an hour or two, and she doesn't sleep. So it's crazy.
So y'all gotta be tortured at home with the kids, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yes.
We're not going to lie.
You can't even deny it. I know so because I have a son and a grandson. They both, me and my daughter was pregnant.
Same age.
2 years
close in
old, they both
age.
the same age, and my twin sister was pregnant. They think we planned. We didn't plan it, y'all. I promise we did. Me and my twin didn't even think we could have any more kids, because the longer you wait, the older you get. Fertility, I don't know what it is, it slows down. So I still
Right.
need to get pregnant.
Because she's after 35, we call it geriatric pregnancy, and I'm 45. It's not as bad for the man as the woman, but certainly when you have the kid, you got to chase them around, and my back keeps going out. I'm not gonna lie, I keep on trying to keep up with them. I'm like, damn, I am getting old. Like,
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, I really want to.
But you got a great attitude and spirit about it, and I love it that you're doing it with your wife, and you compromise, and you're willing to do it because she wants a family.
Right.
And it is beautiful. You can get past this hard time.
Mhm.
The kids will grow up, and y'all got people to come and check on you,
Mhm.
love on you. That's the beauty in it.
I'll be 65 when the last one graduates.
Yeah.
63, I'm sorry.
You still be pretty young. If you take care of yourself, though.
I try, right, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta take care of yourself. That's the key. That's what I'm trying to do. That's why I'm in school. I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm trying to set good examples for my kids. I don't want to push them to children without education. They come and say to me one day, "How you gonna tell us to go? Where's your degree at?" You know what I'm saying? That's what I don't want to hear them say to me.
And there's your average age. So maternal age is 18 to 35 is ideal to have babies, is what they say. We know today, though, now you can have them. My wife's going to be 37, 40, 50. Wasn't there like Beyonce or one of them had a late baby that was?
I was married too.
That's who I'm thinking of. Because Beyonce's not.
And
that old.
Naomi,
How old was she?
Yeah.
in her 50s.
Damn. See, that's right.
Naomi the model,
Yeah.
she had a baby.
How much you know?
I know she
Was
had
that
a
an
baby.
IVF, do you think? Like in vitro fertilization?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm wondering.
Absolutely. A lot of
'Cause-
them do that.
Okay.
Did she have twins or was it just one?
I'm about to look it up for y'all.
Yeah, if she did, how they usually when they get that done, they pregnant mom.
One other key thing I want to highlight, if it's not too small for you to read, sexually transmitted illnesses can be transferred. So they mentioned cold sores. It sounds really weird,
She had a
but,
baby in 2021.
and she was like 50.
Yeah. Yeah, she had a baby at 15 through IFV. She had an egg donor.
So it was, okay.
IVF.
So she still had uterus and everything intact, but it wasn't her egg.
That's what's confusing me. So
Right.
I seen this.
In vitro fertilization, they do the test tube and just shoot it up into your uterus, like through the cervix.
Because I want to sell my eggs. I seen this study
You can
about
save
these
them,
people selling their eggs. She's in
or sell them. You can sell them. I thought you said save them. What'd you say?
the baby.
Yeah,
Are we gonna learn?
What'd
how
you
to-
ask? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
whose DNA does it have?
Oh,
The
it-
donors?
so
or-
it is. You're right. It probably has some of hers because, like, think about it. Her blood's running through that baby's body.
But still, it has
It's the egg.
the dad's,
All of them, right?
the donor sperm.
So is
So
it like 3 pieces?
I would say it has potential 3. You've got her maternal imprint of caring for that baby, what she ate, what she drank. Yes,
Can it reject? Like, what if it's not, can it not?
Right.
that happens. That
I want to
happens.
I want to figure that out too. Like, how would you know? Would it be based off your blood or like your family's history with somebody else's history?
Right, right. Yeah, so those are, and then the STD thing I only mentioned because I didn't know this till I was in college, but if you have a cold sore, for example, 80% of Americans get like, cold sore, that is herpes virus. It is transmittable all 4 ways. And if it is on the herpes simplex 1 or 2 can be transferred like mouth to mouth to the vagina. If it is on outbreak during pregnancy, they have to do, what's it called? Cut your bikini line. What you just call it.
C-section.
You have to do a C-section because if you had the baby while you have herpes, it can get along the baby's body. So that's one thing that they mention. Is pregnancy is stressful when herpes comes out when you're stressed. So like a cold sore will happen when you're stressed. And if, yeah, stuff that, so 80% of us have cold sores that are like basic, like if you share a drink, you can get it. You know what I mean? If there's an active cold sore. So key is don't kissing on anybody that has an active cold sore. You won't get them, or like, also the stress.
Maybe you don't want to somebody at all.
Right.
Because you don't know if anything is active.
Right. 80% of us have it. Yes.
What's mono? My friend called mono, but I never knew what it was.
I think the full name is like mononucleosis,
Mm.
and that's the kissing disease. You only get it like once in your life. It can kill you. I don't know how to describe it well. Any of you know how to describe mono? Yeah.
Not that this matters, but I went to UD last year, it was an outbreak.
Everybody had
Not
mono,
everybody, but also.
but they're Catholics. They're not supposed to be kissing until marriage.
And this girl who got like down the hall, she said like her throat was like swelled up or something.
Okay, that's where your glands are, I
Yeah.
think. Okay. She couldn't eat? Oh my gosh, you must have,
Like 3 days, she said.
because you have it for a month too.
What mono?
I think you get mono, your body takes like a month to recover.
If you have it, can you have it again?
I've heard you can only get it once, but nowadays with COVID, I don't put anything past anybody. It's this weird pandemic we had. Like, what
We're
is that?
still in the pandemic.
There's like somebody made it in the lab. I swear. I don't know where.
I think it's man-made too.
Yes,
A lot of stuff is man-made.
like they're messing with the virus inside of the.
They're preparing us for war right now.
Right. Well, so it could
It's
be a
supposed to be
bioweapon. Yeah, some theory of like that it is a bioweapon to be used for war that could kill off large amounts of people. So, did you guys see the COVID video that was released about the Pfizer executive that was talking about how they're manipulating viruses? I don't think it's searchable anymore either. So, like, if I searched Pfizer, and how do you even spell? So you tell me if it's fake or not. Employee. I don't think it even shows up. There it is. But I don't think that there's nothing. You have to go to Twitter to find it. Like,
Yeah, or Reddit.
and some people might say, well, see, that shows that it's fake news because it's on Twitter. So anyway, if you have a chance, watch that and tell me what you guys think. How do you spell Pfizer?
Right there.
So he was on a date and told him how they manipulate the virus. But then when he was caught, he said he was lying to impress his date. So.
Right.
She said it right.
So I don't even know if you can find, oh, there it is. Actually, yeah, because he actually kind of freaks out when he's confronted. He's like,
They're gonna kill him.
whoa, and he tried to smash the laptop. And
Yeah, the government's gonna kill him.
the employee, the poor guy.
He's not coming up missing.
He was just on a date with a dude and
Yeah,
like,
like everybody, like if you really hear about people who start curing cancer, AIDS, like they either go up missing or they're dead. Like they just automatically die. I think it's really concerning.
it was just his reaction in general. And then it was there are pictures of him in his white coat. He is a medical doctor, did go to med school. He had a little blog and talked about it. So I don't know. Yeah, I was interviewing this guy at that bar, and that's kind of where it came from. So whether or not that happens, viruses can be passed through pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. Like herpes virus is one of those viruses. So cautious. And again, a lot of this is review, but they can test your first baby's poop, and it's 6 months of your use history. So if you smoked or drank or whatever, a lot of times that's when they do show if CPS gets involved. So, and you've ever heard that before? So that first poop is like dark, thick, black baby poop. It's like, because the baby hasn't pooped for the whole time, for like. And so the first poop has like the entire use history of mom. In some counties, it depends on the counties in Ohio. If there's alcohol that could cause fetal alcohol syndrome, if there's THC that could cause birth development, they may put up a flag, like, make sure they're okay, make sure everybody's safe. So that is one thing that they do use. You can see the baby with ultrasound. You can see kind of the development. And again, all of this is.
When I get pregnant, I don't want nobody around me.
Then you would have to do the doula and the natural pregnancy, like she's saying.
Yeah, I want to do a natural pregnancy.
That's how you do it. That's the only way to not get like the doctor system involved, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I've seen a lot of people who's pregnant. Like I have a friend, she's pregnant right now, and just watching her go through the changes every trimester. Like she didn't come around this for her second trimester because she was sick every day, throwing up, and you don't want to be around that, especially if you care for your people who's pregnant. You have to respect them. Like pregnant people hormones are way different than our hormones, and
Yeah, it make them, I'm Superman.
yeah, and my friend.
Oh, you feel crazy, like
Ain't no feeling, I am terrible.
like angry, you're saying.
Yeah, very.
I feel like my wife was gonna knife me a couple of times.
Did you make you more
When
like being pregnant?
I'll be pregnant, I'm Lucifina.
He said Lucifina.
I thought my wife was gonna like cut my throat a couple of times, so yes.
I gotta be honest.
It's like, okay, so I just got a question.
Put your shit in the hamper.
Do you like realize that you be going through the change, or is it just like something you realize after you're pregnant? So
Probably
like while you're
both.
pregnant, you realize like, oh, like yeah, I'm doing something different.
Probably both.
Yeah, because your hormones is like raging. They are raging. And you irritated, and that's why y'all pay attention a lot. And I salute you for being with your wife hanging in there. God bless your soul. A lot of men don't hang in there.
Yeah, a lot of men leave. Like I can speak for black men. They're not staying with
they're gone.
with their girlfriends while they're going.
I probably should have done that. But yes, it was definitely crazy, and we went through. She had to go on progesterone. It makes you crazier. So when you're older and you don't make progesterone, estrogen is one thing you make. Progesterone is another one. When you're pregnant, you want to have enough progesterone, or else you shed your uterine lining, which means you have the period again, and the baby egg and everything gets expelled. So you have a miscarriage. So she had to go on progesterone to keep the uterine lining, and the baby had to set. And for those first trimester days, I wanted to scream. And she did too. So she was suffering. And if I wasn't suffering with her, I think I would say, I had a quote where it's like, if you're not suffering, you're not working hard enough. And she's like, shut up. So,
Yeah.
Because we have the kids also that are tearing up the place.
Yeah. So
So
are y'all gonna do it again?
she wants 4 or 5.
So do you want to do it?
I'll tell her I'm impotent. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Maybe
You
I
was
think
working
you're
while your
right.
wife was pregnant? So like, how would you like, well, you need to bring your wife in here, I got questions.
oh well, she could maybe
Because like, do
someday-
she feel like you were still like there for her, like emotionally and mentally while she was pregnant, while you was working? She
No.
don't feel like that?
No.
Do you feel like you were?
I try.
Do she like know you tried your best?
She knows because there's a balancing act where we gotta like fund and pay for things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So would she rather you like be at home while she's pregnant or
Yeah,
work
but then
while
we
she-
wouldn't have a home, so
Yeah.
like the mortgage wouldn't get paid. So that the balancing challenge was the hardest because it's
Okay.
like, all right, so we're going to work hard and keep this, or we're going to go on government support. It's there, but you know what places you live in if you get the government support.
How long have you took
19.
20 minutes? So I feel like that connection will be there. So she'll know like you were there, but you still have to be a man and provide for your family. So.
And now
I feel
with
like you
extra
tried, but you
kids-
could have tried harder.
With extra kids, it's even harder too, because she's
You
like,
could have taught at home.
"What's your ETA? When are you going to be home? Where are you at? What she needs
Yeah.
help. Like they're tearing
Yeah.
up the place."
Then you got more kids to watch after when you come home. So.
Yes,
Your wife work or no?
not right now.
Not right now.
She
She
was a-
wanna go back to work?
She does. She does.
So she's a stay-at-home mom?
Right now until they get into school.
I'm trying to be a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Until they get into school,
Right.
like until they like 4
I
or
love
5.
being a wife.
Right.
Cook, I'll clean.
Well, I was a
I'm still
stay-at-home
gonna
mom.
have
I'm just now starting to go to work.
Right.
2 years, I was not working for 17 years.
It is hard to do, right? Both of them. Like it's hard to be a
You said
stay-at-home
you
mom.
were a stay-at-home
2 years, stay-at-home mom for 17 years.
17
I'm
years.
just now getting in the work field, which is social work. I do case management. This is my last semester. I already got a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Because they directed you wrong, right?
So what's your most challenging thing that you experienced in these 2 years? Because you said you've been off for
Well, in
17
these
years.
2 years, just girl, not knowing, having to trust God, humble myself. And I'm thankful that they gave me an opportunity to hire me and give me a chance because I didn't know nothing. I was even rusty when it come to using the fax machine and the printer. With me being older,
Mhm.
it can make you feel some kind of way because then you don't know how people looking at you like, hey, she, I'm not these faxes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
I humbled myself and it was so hard, y'all, going in this field. What are y'all? Y'all like
I'm a psychology. Oh, no, social work
I
major.
major in
Yeah.
social work.
social work?
All social work except for social work.
I used to be side, but I just switched.
Okay.
That's
Social
social
work
work
major.
is,
My minor
social work is
in
that. And
Okay.
my sister, she's the one that taught me about it.
Uh-huh.
Y'all
'Cause you
don't
get
like to tell us.
A license.
She got.
Oh, they told me when I applied, when I told them I wanted to be a social work major, they was telling me that's the right field.
That's the right.
That's good. Is nobody told me, and I got a dumb psych
The right
degree.
field for what?
To get money to get your license quick.
I'm getting money.
Huh?
They told you a social work major was gonna be some money.
With a master's in it.
Yeah, but
I'm about to say,
With a
still having a
master's.
social work degree, you can get money, but I'm not in it for the money because you're never gonna get nothing done with that. If that's your mindset.
Right.
to
With
have-
the master's and independent license, because I worked without a license and it was $24,000 a year in 2006, and somebody said, "Get your license," and it was
I want
$35,000.
my license
how do you
though.
get your license? You go get your master's?
Your master's.
Test? Or you
Oh,
actually-
so you guys know we're an accredited program, so it's only a 1-year master's instead of 2.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the big deal
that's why I
about
want my
staying
master's
accredited.
right after I graduate Central.
Just keep going. It's only 11 months. Done.
Literally, after I get my master's,
Yep.
I'm chilling. I ain't doing
That's where this weight and
I ain't
goal
got shit else
is.
to do.
Once you
Doing
get
that
your
free.
master's independent license, you're talking 45, 55,000. Actually, at hospice right now, we hire fresh MSWs, LSWs for 68,000 a year.
Can I tell you what my sister making? She got her master's
She a
degree.
social worker?
Yes.
What type?
She's at VA, isn't she?
Volunteers
How
over
much?
here.
She's making 97,000.
Wait, now
Sign
what?
me up.
What is she doing?
Sign me
Yeah,
up.
social worker is.
Where is she at?
Listen, y'all, I got to set it up. She sent me a paycheck. She sent me a copy of her paycheck.
Every 2 weeks?
No, sent me that paycheck.
Does she get like
Before she got
10,000 a
paid,
month?
She was at Eastway, but she did get a check for $6,200.
Wait, so does she work in a?
For 2 weeks?
I need
I need to know what
listen,
that social worker
that's
is.
because, and that was a private thing. That was a private thing because they didn't have no staff. Y'all know nowadays. people
Me
don't
too,
want
I've been researching.
Does she get an MSW?
They tell you gonna make like 40,000.
She has a master's.
Yeah.
Or is it like $30? Are you asking like,
Yeah.
how long
Yeah.
is she?
As long as I'm making
Gotta
$40,000 for myself.
You
I'm
do.
gonna tell them this. Y'all have to know this. This is very important. I'm gonna share this with y'all. If y'all don't advocate for yourself,
They
y'all
will
know
screw
yourself,
you. They will screw you night
They
and
will
day.
never give you what you know you're worth. So you have to know your worth. You have to advocate. That's the only reason why my little sister's making the money that she's making, is because she knows her worth. Where the company she was working for at first, she only asked for not even $5,000 increase a year, she only wanted $3,000. They told her no, and tried to tell her, I mean, you can't, I mean, your degree is good, but you're not really doing all that to get this extra $3,000. Well, when she went somewhere else, they gave her $20,000. And then she's a woman of God too. She's a very, you know.
So what is the job and responsibilities?
And I
So it is
she's
like
beautiful too.
independent license and a master's.
She's working on that right now.
She got her independent license? Or you said that's what she working on?
She's working on that.
How
She
do
got
you
her
do it?
BLS.
You
That's
work
what I
2
wanna
years
know.
in the field after you get your master's.
Exactly.
Wait,
That's all you gotta
so
do.
after you get your master's, that's your social work license.
Mhm.
And then we have to get an independent license too,
You don't have to, but you will get paid more.
if you get your
So
independent
you
license.
And then you can get a
So, yeah.
supervision. What's that?
So you have to get an independent license.
When I finished as a social worker, you'll laugh at this, but I'm dyslexic and have ADHD. I did not want to take a licensure test, so I just took MSW. And back then, you could live off 24,000 a year, but it was a
All right
struggle.
now.
Now today you can't. But when somebody told me you get that license and you'll have 35,000 a year, that was just key for me because.
Just 35,000.
And that was a lot of money in 06 and 07. Like my mortgage was $500 a month. I just drove a junk car. I had 2 roommates in my 4-bedroom house I bought for $110,000. So it was like $500-600 a month, and the 2 roommates paid $300 each. So I felt rich. I felt like I was rolling in it, you know, because
Now you got your own family.
it is weird. So I went on and got the independent license. I went on, somebody talked me into a doctorate. I don't know. I said, no, I can't even read
Where
properly.
did you go?
University of Cincinnati. UK is the best one now. It's a 2-year online program. Same for the MSW. University of Kentucky is a great. That's where I went for my master's in social work.
It's 2 years, not 1 year.
So it's 1 year for a master's and then 2 more for the doctorate.
Okay.
For a DSW. I was like, that's fast. That's what Nikita wants to die on me soon. So I want to make sure we.
Somebody told me about UK. They said, no, you will love it.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a social worker with your doctorate. That's the thing.
What'd you say?
Can you be a social worker with your doctorate?
You can, absolutely. Yep. Some people definitely do. Like, you all know Nikita Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
She is more than, next year she'll be done with her doctorate in social work at the University of Kentucky. So UC has the most money for you all if you want to go to UC for your MSW, but they don't have a doctorate program. So a lot of them want you to get out in the field and practice. Yeah.
And when you say you are, you from like Ohio? I'm not from Ohio. So
You don't
is
have
that
to be-
money for me?
They have money, especially for Central State Connection. So yes, it's the Central State Connection that is at UC. We have a specific program where every fall we visit UC and they're going to wine and dine you and put you up in a hotel room and say, come to our school.
So I'm here to go to UC after I graduate.
Yeah, they're going to recruit you.
Hopefully, because Central didn't give me no money.
They don't, you're right. And luckily they are semi-affordable to begin with.
Yes.
Like, and then what's the grant you don't have to pay back? It's the Pell Grant or something. right?
Yeah.
But then you gotta be eligible for that.
So what's the cutoff? Because I feel like
It's just,
My wife and I made it, and that's my first 2 years teaching at Central.
Basically, if you, I just know I don't qualify for a Pell Grant.
Maybe it's because I have so many kids, we still qualify.
But it's like, you know, like when you, like, you know, it's, I don't know, it's like when you make a certain amount of money, you don't qualify for certain stuff because your mom make too much money, but like, she
Yes.
really don't.
Yep.
It's like people in middle class can't get the Pell Grant.
Right.
Like middle class, lower class can't get Pell
I
Grant.
wonder why they gave it to us, and I'm a faculty at Central. Does that tell you something about how much they pay at Central?
I think I only got the program because my mom's a single mom.
And yeah, I was gonna say, like,
I think that's why. I got
dependent on how many kids and dependents you would have. So anyway, this is kind of where we finished. I know that we are, let's see here, 9% battery. Okay, good. So yeah, babies do like shirts that have a bunch of patterns on them. If you ever see a newborn, they're gonna stare at, like, if you got like plaid on, they like, or the ceiling, they just stare at it. They're all, you know, they're crazy. They prefer sweet. Breast milk is sweet, so that's like their favorite. And formula is pretty sweet too. So it has a lot of sugar. What'd you say?
Breastfeeding.
And that is hard. Like, it's physically demanding labor, like that I don't even know how to. But it passes
I'm
on.
still breastfeeding now. My grandson is about to be 2.5 years old.
This is what she was doing with him yesterday. This was hilarious. So this is he's a month. He was like smiling. So he's like 3 weeks in.
Oh my goodness. I just look.
Because they're just like, what the hell is
And he's ready to learn.
I think so, yeah. She's a crazy diet to eat the right stuff. We eat a lot of sugar too, but she tries to get spinach, peppers.
Did she lose her weight really good?
When you breastfeed, you burn 500 calories a day. It's the same as running 5 miles. So if you do breastfeed, it just like drains. And if you pump, you'll probably lose even more. So she was just
My
like,
aunt did when she was pumping her milk out, but she was pumping for the hospital. They were paying her for her milk.
oh, because there's a shortage. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So colic is another thing you could run into if you've ever heard of like a baby crying for more than 3 hours. Just gastrointestinal.
Please no.
Right. That's when you're like, I never want another baby again. Our first one was kind of like that. Again, a lot of this is review, but I feel like we start here because your genetics and like how you're brought up. And imagine if you're born in, say, the middle of Russia today where there's a war going on, like how the mom's pregnancy would be or how the baby could come out because there's bombs and like electric's out and it's this temperature and they have no heat or water that's warm. It's stressful. And that does pass through, you know, even the mom. And they talked about generational trauma. So there's different ways that starting, not just like newborns, but what do they call it when the baby's in the belly? Like prenatal stuff is already being shown that the, you know, stress hormones and things are being passed. Right when the baby's born, they want both mom and dad to hold them skin to skin. So I actually had to hold them. And we talked about this Thursday. They don't want you to wash all that like white film off the baby. There's just kind of like a mucus layer on the baby, but that's good bacteria. There's a connection that shows the importance of research shows that keeping that mucus on at least for 24 hours is important. It protects the baby. It keeps away bad bacteria. There's good bacteria going on. So postpartum depression is a big thing that a lot of research has been done on. In fact, for your presentations, you guys can present on ADHD or depression or postpartum depression or the effects of poverty or trauma on childhood or a food desert on childhood development, because there's a lot of important research on that. Healthy babies need support and stimulation at home, so you're teaching them everything you talk to them, everything you say, everything you sing, all the tastes, all the dinner. Like I try to even, my wife gets mad as it's cold out, but I'll open the door and they can like get the sunshine. But you got to expose them to those elements. You know what I mean? Like they're neural connections in the brain. There's like thousands, and you only have 3 years. Yeah.
So, my uncle, he has bipolar depression.
Mhm.
Or, I definitely.
Okay.
And
diagnosis.
the doctor said like, he be having seizures.
Okay.
Absent seizures. That makes sense. This was like his people, he says it. And the doctor said like, he also have absent seizures. So, should that be wrong?
I mean, imagine trying to function. You're like at work and you're trying to like be trained and learn how to fax something or like type on a computer and you have a freaking seizure in the middle of it. You know, imagine adapting, or you're in class and you have a seizure trying to listen and pay attention. And you wake up and you're tired from it because your body is like that. And it's just exhausting. And that's the way they kind of trained us with like developmental disabilities, where it is stressful. And so they do have an anti-seizurical medication called Depakote. I don't know if they give them Depakote. So hopefully, yeah, there's good science, even on schizophrenia nowadays, where there's a lot of good medication. So healthy babies, if there's domestic violence, that can cause developmental, maybe even bipolar. So intervention programs provide support, education, and encourage prenatal care, decreases the risks of abuse.
Are this one,
I did send it through announcements, actually. Okay, any other questions? I want to make sure before this dies, there was a student who wanted to make sure your check sheet is good. You guys all have your registration and check sheet caught up? I know I ask you every class, but that's because I want to make sure more than anything else. There's also cultural differences among newborns. In the book, they talk about African Americans versus white or Latino babies. Anything that comes to mind for you guys thinking of like just how the cultural differences are that you've seen? I know Thursday, she, I'm blanking on her name, but she said like with an African American girl, if they're newborn, give them less attention, but they're more resilient, stronger, and more likely to survive. So they like give all the attention to other babies instead of an African American girl. And that was, I haven't seen the research on that, but that's an interesting observation. That makes me wonder why that is. I mean, we already know of many racial disparities across the board. We're doing research with Umesh right now about racial disparities in mental health, but it's showing in lots of other things that it's certainly there. And you know, we will be the change makers out in the field to make sure that there's not those gender disparities, that everybody gets equal care and equal everything. As a social worker, you might get some prenatal information to obtain on assessment. Gestation, like how long was the baby in? Was it premature? If it's 36 weeks, like as a social worker, we'll know that they might need extra attention if they are premature, baby or harm the mom. And then like newborn status, what did they go through as a newborn? And that is for us the end of chapter 3. For Thursday, I'm kind of dipping into chapter 4 in infancy, so it jumps about Midwest has the worst infant mortality in like developed countries everywhere.
Mhm.
So Chicago, Detroit, Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, we have horrible infant mortality.
What does that mean?
Like sudden infant death syndrome sometimes, some many all at once. You should spread them out instead of getting 8 at once.
I don't think babies should get this.
So that's what some people connect it to. Some people are connecting it to distractedness or diet or lack of proper nutrition.
It could be the sun too. I forgot what it's called. It's our levels, I think our pH levels. I
Okay.
learned about this moving from Michigan to here,
More. Oh,
way sicker in
Okay.
Ohio, just because the environment here.
we have more
I don't know.
allergies for sure. So you get the
Yes,
congestion and the sinus infections and the
I forgot
cough.
what the doctor told me, but like they turned
Okay.
flu.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I went to get all my tests and my immunizations caught up. They were telling me that my blood levels are real.
In the winter, especially, we don't get
I
enough.
feel bad because I'm on birth control.
I didn't realize there was a connection there. I had
Yeah.
no idea.
I guess birth control, it can,
Lower your vitamin D.
no, it could like cause my,
Okay.
my bones are gonna be weak. I need calcium.
I didn't know, but it says like rates decrease dramatically with improved nutrition and control infection, control it. Increased recognition in the 60s. We had a lot of short work Head Start program, even more in the 90s and the early Head Start program. They have Helped Me Grow, if you've ever heard of that one. That hires a lot of social workers. If you have the license, you will definitely get paid more. I was shocked when I found out the students that I supervise at hospice make $68,000 a year. Brand new MSW, LSW. I was like, wait, what? When they hired me, it was $25 an hour or $50,000 a year. And then last year, several quit because you're on call and you work 24 hours and you get burnt out. So they raised it to $58,000. Some of them still quit because they didn't stop the on-call. So a year ago, they raised it to $68,000, brand new MSW, LSW. I was like, what? Is it, like, that's double what my starting MSW, LSW was. I got 35 and I was excited. I thought I had all the money in the world. I didn't ever think we'd have inflation like we do now. But those stimmy checks kind of threw us off big time as they doubled the price of everything. So we'll get into these before my computer dies. I'll end it. We'll do it Thursday. Remember to do your geogram. If you have questions, email me. You can draw it by hand. They do have programs on Word if you prefer to have it prettier or like perfect shapes and sizes. I'm okay if you draw it though. It's perfectly fine.
I'm gonna draw them, Harry.
It's okay to draw. I would draw it too. I mean, that's what I do just right here. And then you might learn something if you ask your mom or your dad or your cousins about your family. You're like, oh my gosh, I did not know that. And it's good to know as there are risk factors we can prevent sometimes when we know about our family history and genetic history, you know. It is a little scary. I got a mess up.
My mom says that the officer, so usually say it's a generation, so probably my generation.
Okay.